meeting? I don't know.
Last meeting.
Yeah, but what's really different than what's said. I thought usually we get a hard copy when we come in. Can't vote on something I haven't seen.
Well, Sherry, you said, Lynn said she would be chairman. You said that?
She said she was willing to be.
Now, when did you get that information? Was that last meeting or was that just here lately?
We were emailing about John not being there and Lynn not being here this meeting.
Okay.
Carmen and
I think it's her turn, isn't it?
Carmen and I. were
Yeah,
emailing.
Lynn was up for being chair. She was all for it.
She's vice chair.
Yeah, so they just go up and then they.
You guys got really quiet. Are you guys still talking in the room?
I'll say nothing.
Hey, we're ready.
Oh, okay. It's just really quiet.
Wait on you.
No, I'm trying to get into.
Oh, we're waiting on them.
Start recording. It's not working. It wants me to sign into Google account.
I heard something said recording the talk.
Yeah, that was the Zoom part. I want to do the YouTube part too.
We're on YouTube.
Mhm.
Let's get on with some of these views we got.
Say that again.
We're on YouTube, let's get on with some of these views we have.
Yeah. And we can get recognized with our mascots, so we're kind of safe.
I don't care.
Sure you
The public hear so much, everybody should know.
And what baseball is that?
Let's go baseball.
They start, practice starts or game start? Practice. I don't even know who the high school coach is now.
Lockett, Matt Lockett,
Oh, Matt is the
he's the head coach.
head coach.
Yeah, Timmons stepped down last year.
And I knew that, yeah, I knew that Jeff wasn't the head coach because he's on my golf, we're on a golf team together. Yeah, kind of calling it quits a little bit. We went back.
He's going back to hang out with his daughters. He's like bowling with us anymore.
Oh, he's not bowling anymore, huh?
What this is. I like that. He's a good guy. That's a good guy.
Oh, yeah. I can't believe I've been retired so long.
Yeah. I want to be retired. I hate going to work every day.
Still trying to figure out how to adjust to it.
I'm hoping to retire in 6 more years.
You told me what you've done before, but I can't remember what it was, Jacob.
Make shingles.
Go ahead, Carmen.
I'm 3/4. I got my social.
We all
security.
good to start, Sherry?
Yeah.
I want to retire.
Okay. All right, I'm gonna call the meeting to order. First on the agenda is the approval of minutes dated January 10th. If anyone has any feedback on those or wants to make a motion to approve.
I was hoping we were gonna have a hard copy here is my only comment, so I have not had a chance to read the minutes, so I can't approve.
Okay, they were in the packet that was emailed out and online, just for reference.
Yeah, I'd always thought we had a hard copy when we came into the meeting, so I came in early to read them and we didn't have them here.
Okay. Has anyone else had a chance to review and want to make a motion? Or if
I'll make a motion,
nobody's.
we approve the minutes.
Okay, thanks, Brandon. Does anyone want a second?
I'll second it.
Great. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
I'll
Oh.
approve as well. I didn't get a chance. I didn't receive an
Yeah.
email with the packet information
Okay.
either. And so I just, right before the meeting, found everything online, so I haven't had a chance to go through them.
Okay, that's fair. Do we want to hold or are we good on going forward?
I'd like to
I
read them.
guess. Okay, we can always, can we provide feedback next meeting, Sherry? I don't really know how that works.
Until next month.
Okay, so we'll wait until next month to approve, and then on next month's, we'll approve both months of minutes. Cool, sounds good. Alrighty, next up is topics from the floor. So for anyone not on the agenda, I do see that we have Dan Davis joined. Did you have anything that you wanted to bring up to the
No, I
commission?
don't. I just want to say,
Okay.
can you hear me? Okay,
Yes, we can hear you.
okay. I'm on the library board, so I'm just kind of cruising around and seeing what the other commissions are doing.
Awesome, great, thanks for
It's
joining
okay for me to
us.
be here today, right?
Yep, totally
Okay.
fine.
Perfect.
Yeah.
I'll just listen in then. Thanks.
Awesome. Thanks, Dan. Alrighty, and I don't see anyone else. Is anyone in the room? Sherry?
There's no one here.
No one here. Okay, I can't see, so I just wanted to make sure I wasn't missing anybody. All right, so we will move on to staff report then.
Hello. So we have had some interesting couple weeks, and some of the reasons why with the minutes and the emails and stuff is we had a whole server transformation that we did. And so we've been slowly getting back our access to different things. So if you're wondering why things went a little later this month, that's why. And then we also have been dealing with the sickness that everyone, it seems to be going around. So we apologize for anything with that. I don't have a ton to report, but a few things. Campbell Park bathrooms, we are going to start shutting those down earlier during the day because we're having a lot of vandalism happening after the kids get out of school. So around 3:30, a lot of times they'll put things into the toilets to flood out the bathrooms. And we've had some other issues going on there. And actually, yesterday or this morning was reported that all of the rubber backing that protects the new basketball hoops has been ripped off of the basketball hoops. So that's really unfortunate since it's only been up for about 2 weeks now and playable. So we're going to look at some more ways to keep those a little less tamper proof and see what we can come up with there. As far as recreation goes, I did print out a little activity log that you're welcome to pick up on the way, and I can email it out to everyone. But just to let you all know, in the last 60 days, we've had 546 program registrations. 360 of those have been residents and 186 have been non-residents. And then we have a variation of ages that have registered. So I thought that was pretty impactful looking. 427 of them have been online. And then 119, Aaron and I have handled in person. So that's part of our job that we do as well. Let's see, what else is there? I think
Question,
that's,
hey Shauna,
okay.
quick question on the out of city residents. I'm not saying it right, but those who don't reside in St. Helens, do you know what cities they're coming from primarily?
You know, it doesn't say on here, it just says non-residents. I would say just from seeing the new members that have joined, mostly are Warren, Columbia City, and Scappoose. So Columbia
Oh, okay.
County still, yeah.
Cool.
But we do have some that come from Vancouver and Portland and Beaverton as well for some of the programmings that we're doing. We just released some information in the city newsletter. I don't know if you guys were able to read, but it gave a recap for Parks and Recreation throughout the year. So if you haven't had a chance to read it, I would definitely do that because it shows the different highlights in the city. Let's see, what else do I
Thank you.
have? I think that's, you're welcome. I think that's pretty much it. We're planning for our spring stuff. So if you have any work parties coming up, if you can get that information sent over. I met with communications last week to talk about how they could help us a little bit more with getting the word out. And they're going to create a monthly newsletter for activities and things like spring cleanups and such. And I'd really love to see if maybe some folks would plan some in the parks that we don't normally plan them in, like McCormick and Campbell and things like that, to get some more community and neighborhood involvement. I met with a group of folks, gosh, was that last week too? It seems like this month has already been crazy, but we met about the art in the park idea. We came up with a date for that. Carmen, do you know the date offhand?
I think it's August 20th.
Okay, so on August 20th, we're gonna do an art in the park that we're inviting different artists throughout Columbia County and beyond to come and take part in a community-wide effort to showcase the different art that's going on. And art means all different things to different people, whether it's planting gardens or dance or singing or creating art. So if you have any ideas for that, please let us know. We have a pretty good group of folks that are willing to put in the effort to get this off the ground, but we will need volunteers and such the day of, and we'll provide more information as that comes out. And then we have our Citizens Day in the Park on June 25th that I would ask for you all to, I'm in charge of the activities for that day, so I would really like if we could get some sort of booth going on there with an activity for the citizens. So if you could put that on your calendar. June 25th.
What'd you call that, Shauna?
That's gonna be Citizens Day in the park. I think usually we do it like around 10 or 11. There's a lunchtime thing where we provide lunch for everyone, and then we have different activities. So if you could put that on your calendar, and then the art in the park on the 20th of August will be some great ways that we can showcase what this commission does and try to get other folks to join us. So yeah, I think that's about it for me.
Shauna, those people that signed up, do they sign up for specific programs?
Mhm.
So can you just kind of give us an idea of what they signed up for?
Program wise,
Yes.
I don't have that information. I didn't print
But
that.
off your head, what are the programs that are?
So the biggest ones are our sports programs. So our basketball league has 110 kids signed up for that. We're doing a soccer league. A lot of our child's like care type of programs get a lot of signups. We haven't expanded too much into the, like, for instance, under 18, we had 423 signups. So very youth driven. 18 to 65, we had 67 signups. 65 plus, we had 3 signups. So, you know, it shows us where's areas that we need to work, but we also are limited on staff and space as well. When we started the program, knew that the youth program was the biggest demand, it seemed like, out here. And so that's what we really focused, but we're really trying to integrate other things. You will see we're doing adult softball this year, which is really exciting. And so I have a meeting with those folks tomorrow with anybody who has questions about that at 7 p.m. at the community center for anybody who wants to come and talk about that. And then with our new pickleball courts, we're planning on doing some pickleball leagues and hopefully some walking groups and stuff that kind of speaks to generations that are older than our 18 and under kind of stuff. So. Did I answer that for you, Jerry?
I just wondering what they were. what the
Yeah.
programs were.
No, that's a great, and I know I can dial down more into this programming. So Aaron and I actually were talking today why we're so exhausted right now, getting a whole new community center and onboarding 2 new software systems, plus with all these programs. That's what's going on. So our new software we have is awesome, and we can dial it down more. I just need to get a little bit more familiar, but I can get you some more information on that too, Jerry, for next time.
Yeah. Maybe next meeting, just,
Yeah.
just say all the things. Yeah, that'd be great.
Perfect. Well, anybody else have any questions for me? Okay,
All right, thank you, Shauna.
welcome.
Next up, we have counselors report. Doug,
Let's see, can you hear me?
we can.
Oh, great. Hi, everyone. And hope everyone's doing well. I don't see too many in the council chambers. What do we have? 1, 2, 3? 3 individuals there. And Carmen, you're home. So we're missing a few, right?
Yeah, we've got a good, I think who are we missing?
That's all
Oh,
we
we got
have.
Lynn now.
I think we've got Lynn on, we have Paul,
Oh,
we have
good.
Dana, Brandon. Yeah.
Okay, so we have a quorum. Oh, that's great.
Yep.
Well, let me update you on what's going on with the council. I brought the recommendation forward. I don't know if anyone was looking at, was looking in when I brought that forward to the council, but we had quite a discussion on it at our work session. So here's the long and the short of it, is I basically read your recommendation, and some, there were raised eyebrows with the council as telling me that, it's something that needed to really be talked about. And I really think that we need to polish all of that up for accountability and for policy with our parks department, with staff, and where everything kind of washes out with that. But as we talked about it, it's like, okay, there are so many loose ends about how we go about this. And I think I alluded to this last, and I do believe it's in the minutes, that there is some language in the permit process that deals with issues of monetary issues of cleanup and that kind of thing. So I asked the staff to look at that if the council approved that we go forward, which they did, kind of a head nod, not any big vote or anything, but it deals with damage that has incurred with the permit holder. So whoever pulls the permit, and if there's any damage incurred, they are responsible for that payment for those damages. Any additional maintenance would also be looked at by the park staff and recommended then to any costs for that, and cleanup. So pretty much those are kind of the three issues that I outlined and we had talked about. And to me, some of those are in place, and some of them are just kind of an agreement. For example, in public works, if someone pulls a parade permit for all of Columbia Boulevard, like the Kiwanis does, they are responsible for all of those things. And so they have an open, we would bill them for cleanup, and I think it was $150 or $200 to clean it up. And so being a Kiwanian, the Kiwanis board and membership says, well, we don't need to pay that. We need to clean it up ourselves. So that's how the Kiwanis goes about doing their permit process with the praise. So I'm thinking about an analogy of a car rental. What do we do when we go rent a car? Well, the car is already inspected for any scrapes and scratches and the condition of the car. The person who is wanting to rent that car or that automobile in a contract signs that, oh, there is a scratch on the driver's side or on the hood or whatever. And so there's a somewhat of a mutual agreement of what the conditions are. And I don't think we need to go that far if somebody's going to rent a gazebo or something like that for a half day. But I do think that there needs to be pre-inspection on all permits that need to be pulled or that are pulled. And at the duration, at the end of that, the permit, I do think that the parks staff can take a look at it and see if there was any damage, if there's any cleanup, any additional charges other than what the permit costs. Okay, am I clear so far? Can everyone hear me? Can everyone
Yep.
hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, so that to me made a whole lot of sense. Now to follow up on that, then what needs to be done is that when individuals leave the area that they are permitted for, then this park staff needs to inspect it, just like the car rental people do when you drive in and they do around the car, see if everything's okay, check the mileage, do all that stuff. Then our park staff will need to do that at some time as when the individuals leave the area, whatever. Now, and that also with maintenance and cleanup, that those things can be documented. Keep in mind that we have the bank card and we have language in the permit that allows us to negotiate with those individuals about any damages or further maintenance or cleanup issues. Okay. So rather than putting down $100 for a deposit, we ask them for their bank card. And then there's language that deals with with those issues, that if there is things that, and over at the gazebos there, if someone has a birthday party or some anniversary party, whatever, there's a lot of duct tape and taped up to the rafters and taped here and taped that, a lot of stuff that could be left around. So there are some issues. And so the city now and the parks people now have some leverage with the credit card to negotiate with the person to either get it cleaned up themselves or it'll be a charge. Okay, so am I clear on that? Yeah. Okay. Okay. So I
have questions.
it gets so convoluted because here's one of the issues that we have. Along comes Tina Curry, who wants to permit a park, an entire park, for a month or for 3 weeks. Okay, now that car rental is going to go across state lines. It's going to be out for quite a while and whatever. So there needs to be kind of maybe checks every now and then at, and let's just take the park at issue that has an issue, and that's Nob Hill Nature Park. Let's just say perhaps Tina has that permit for like 3 weeks. And so the park staff every now and then can go up and take a look at issues. If we have a watchdog, a person who oversees that park in a sense as a volunteer or a parks commissioner, then Tina can be alerted that there are some problems with that, with the maintenance, with the messes, with those kinds of things. And the park staff needs to be alerted as well, because they're the ones who are the custodians of the park, and they need to keep it in shape, even through the process of when individuals have a permit pulled for a length of time. And that would be, and in this case, it would be Tina Curry. So if there's documentation that there is some issues with the parks, then through the permit process, this can be rectified financially. So the finances need to go back into the parks, dedicated to the parks cleanup and maintenance and expenses that way. Let's see, was there anything else that I might have missed with doing this? John Walsh, when I brought that up in the evening session, I believe, he says, well, everything is in place now. And I pushed back just a bit about saying, well, I don't know if the language is strong enough. I'd really encourage the staff meaning John Walsh and Shauna and any of the individuals in with the parks to take a good look at the verbiage and if our parks permits needs any wordsmithing to make it any stronger and any more solid. So that was my due diligence in terms of bringing your recommendation forward to the council. I wanted it on a work session. So it got put on a work session so that there could be a discussion amongst the council. The council had no problems with agreeing to that. And so we're, as far as I'm concerned, it's moving forward with John and Shauna, making certain that, and any other individuals on staff, making certain that there's that everything is proper in that contract. Okay.
Okay.
Question.
I have questions, lots of questions.
Go.
Go ahead, Paul.
Well, first of all, is this something, what you guys talked about in session? Is this the process that you discussed? Is something that's being modeled in other communities as well?
Well, it certainly is, and it certainly is in Portland Parks years and years ago. When I was coaching tennis, we pulled a permit for Washington Park tennis courts. And yes, we were responsible for keeping those parks clean when we left. And many times as a coach, whenever we were having either practice or matches, I would call the parks people and say, hey, there is a mess of garbage, trash cans, or somebody destroyed this place. So don't pin it on us. And we'd always try to leave those courts better than what we found them. If there was anything at all that was misleading. A lot of times the nets would be down. Kids would a lot of times go in and wrestle around with the nets, sit on them and do that kind of thing. They'd need to be tightened up. We do a lot of that stuff. But yes, that Portland Parks, for example, in my experience, follows up on those issues with maybe not actually Lincoln High School was the permit holder on those courts during tennis season for the 3 hours that we had the courts. So it would be the athletic director that Portland Parks would contact as the individual who signed on the dotted line for the permits.
So
Did I answer that?
Yes, but I also have some other questions. But so if I understand correctly, so let's say if somebody rented the gazebo for a wedding on the weekend, is staff would have to be there
No,
Saturday at 10 o'clock to make sure it's okay, and then whenever the wedding's over, the event's over. Because how do you?
No, staff wouldn't have to be there. They'd have to take a look to make certain it was in order. And if that can happen on Friday, I signed for the Veterans Plaza when we have our veterans celebration on Veterans Day. And guess who encourages everyone to clean up? And guess who asks everyone to take all the stuff that's taped up on the gazebos and that kind of thing down and get it into a better position or a better place than it was when we got into the or prior to the event.
Yeah, I'm trying to understand how you do something like this. If, you know, the wedding's over at 1 o'clock on Saturday and then nobody checks it from the city until Monday morning. Well, what if something happened between Saturday, 1 o'clock and Monday morning when somebody takes a look at it? That's, you know, because it'd be like taking your car back. I mean, if they don't inspect it right when you're done with it, it's,
I understand that, and that's up to the staff to figure out.
okay.
Yeah, Paul.
Okay. Anything else, Paul?
Well then, yeah, I mean, that would kind of play into the, you know, obviously if you rent the ball fields, or if you rent or if you have a permit for, let's say, for example, the BMX track, like I do every year, we're only using it for a short period of time. So it's, you know, trying to determine, okay, if there's damage that's done to something outside of the time that we use it, how are we responsible for it? Or how would the ball field be responsible for damage that was done when they were not using it?
Get it? Yeah, I understand.
I
that.
just wonder if that was brought up, or how that's going to be, you know, handled.
Oh, the lag time somewhat. And I'm trying to think about, somebody made a comment, well, you know, if anyone wants to take a picture, everyone has cell phones these days. If everyone wants to take a cell phone shot of what it was like when they left, that would be a one way, and it's up to the staff to make those decisions.
Okay.
I don't want to micromanage any of that for the staff. That's up to them. How they come up with that, I'm not certain.
I feel like it would be a lot for the staff to manage with all the rentals and stuff that are happening. It feels like there's not enough staff to be able to support doing those checks all the time. I could see for maybe bigger events or something, but for every rental, it doesn't seem feasible or manageable.
I just add something really quick, just speaking from staff, we're gonna look at how the other folks are doing it. We already have it on our radar to revamp our special use permits because we don't find them very user friendly right now. And as far as rentals go that are under 50 people, you do not need a special use permit, but we do have wording as they're agreeing to using the facility of what can and can't happen there. And if we feel like something goes above and beyond that, then we will connect with them on Monday just to kind of figure things out. So I think before complicating it too much, until we come back with what that's going to look like and then get some more feedback, I think that would be the best thing, because I think we can go another way from what Doug and the council had agreed to, which basically was these long-term events that are causing harm to the parks or long-term effects, how we're going to manage those and make sure that we have the budgeted funds to make it right, basically. So those are like our tourism events. Maybe if somebody has a parade, which we already have a $450 deposit that people pay for the parade, and then they get that back if it's found to be in a reasonable condition when they return on Monday. So I think there's just a lot of different variables here. And I think I hear what you're saying, Paul, and there is no way that we can manage every weekend events to see what that looks like, but we'll make it a way that's accessible and equitable for everyone using the parks, but also in a way that we're making sure that we're keeping our parks the way they should be as well.
I think Jerry has some, Carmen.
Yeah,
Go ahead, Jerry.
so I've thought about this quite a bit, and, you know, the bottom line is, you know, if a permit holder, they have a responsibility to returning the park back to the condition that it was in when they got it. I think this is really a legal document. I mean, I think some attorneys should look at it. And some of the things that I was thinking about is kind of back to the same thing, Doug, but there's two things there. One is, you know, a permit walkthrough, because I think that's kind of one thing Paul was kind of mentioning. You know, what does it look like ahead of time? And I think that has to be taken into account. So there has to be, you know, a pre-event documentation, I think. And then.
So Jerry, is that something, and we talked just briefly about this, and just kind of go, well, this is going to be this up to staff, how they do it. But if I was renting a gazebo for a birthday party or an anniversary, I'd simply take my cell phone out, stand in one place, take one shot of the gazebo, and before the event happened. After the event, on leaving, I would stand in the same place, take another shot, so I had documentation if there was any kind of issues about being charged for something that wasn't there. So yes, we did come up with that thing. The responsibility on the weekends might lie to the permit holder to somewhat visually document what it's like when you got there and visually document it, what it's like when you got there. That being said, if there was a pile of garbage and there was trash all over everywhere when they got there, that would be documented. And guess what? If it's clean when they left, that would also be documented. And or if nothing really more additional trash or whatever was occurred, all of that could be documented just by a person standing in one place and documenting one thing and another if push came to shove and there were issues.
So Doug?
But I'm not done. So let me finish. So I think there needs to be a pre-event documentation. And that should be done probably with cell phones, and that should be written in there. The person's responsible, it's a legal document. So they're responsible for taking a picture. Most of those have dates on it. After the function, there should be a post-function walkthrough or documentation, one or the other. So we know what it looks like, just like Doug said. And that'll kind of take what Paul was saying. If something happens, let's say they have a permit on Saturday and no one looks at it until Monday, what happens between there? And I think that's important. One other thing that I think should be in there somehow at the end is there should be a mitigation process, because it's not when, it's if. It's just like, let's take Nob Hill Park. Howard says, okay, this much damage was done, and the permit holder says, I've taken pictures ahead, I've taken pictures after, but no, it wasn't that much. Somehow at the end of it, there should be also a mitigation process in case there is, some disagreement between the city and the permit holder.
That would be.
I don't know how that would look because I'm not an attorney, but.
That would be an issue. If they couldn't get resolved by the park staff, then it would come to the council.
I think that needs to be, Doug, yeah, I don't have a problem with that. I just think that should probably be in there, and if there's documentation ahead and documentation afterwards, it should be pretty straightforward, I would hope.
So Doug,
Any other questions?
I was going to say Brandon had some feedback. He's raised his hand a couple of times. Go ahead, Brandon.
I was just going to add, I think this is a great discussion. This has been on my mind for a while. I think this is a good way to protect the parks and protect the city, but I also wanted to talk about it from the other side because I've rented parks, I think on 3 separate occasions, and it's been several years now, so I'm not blaming anybody that's here now, but it wasn't a pleasant experience. So I paid, I think it was the $30 or whatever it was for the permit to reserve the park, twice for a birthday party, once for a family reunion. And both times we had used Campbell Park, it was so filthy when I got there that I had to take a broom and clean up broken glass, clean up cigarette butts off the tables. McCormick, the garbages were so full there when we got there for my daughter's birthday party that there were bees everywhere. It was just a mess. So my question is, when somebody spends the money to reserve a park, what are they guaranteed they're going to get? Because I asked the question, I said, we're going to have a family reunion. Are there going to be tables available? And I was told, no, we can't guarantee there's going to be tables because people might move them. So if somebody's spending this money to reserve a park, it seems like there should be a guarantee that it's going to be clean and that there's going to be tables, that it's going to be presentable when they get there.
And I agree, I totally agree. And Jerry alluded to that with a mitigation process of some sort. If I could see in the perfect world that if you took photographs of that park and the condition that you found it, that you should be able to come back to whoever, the staff first, and get your money back, one, and two, possibly bring that issue forward to the council, so the council is aware of what's going on in our parks.
I think what Brandon's talking about,
Council
though,
needs to
too,
know.
is, I think what Brandon's talking about, though, let's say you get a permit and you go and in the document we have, you're supposed to go take a picture of it. So let's say you're gonna have a family reunion on Saturday and you go down there on Thursday and you look at the thing and you start documenting it and you look at it, it's not like you want it. So, that's a little bit different issue. I mean, we're trying to, take care of the people, our citizens that are getting the park. So if that happens, can they go to the park staff right then and says, hey, I'm having a family reunion here on Saturday. I need all this stuff cleaned up.
Of course, and that would be in the best way you're describing that would be the answer to that solution. And get to Shauna right away, and on that parks permit would be phone numbers that you could call. I see all of that. So Brandon, I think you bring up a perfect example of something not sideways from the issue that we're talking about, but all encompassing what a permit is all about. And so in that sense, yeah, I think it needs a lot of work and a lot of thought as we move forward. It can be a device to help clean up the parks, as well as it is a device to retain a time period for that park. So it serves in different applications, I think. And Brandon, thank you for bringing that up.
That's a good
And see, Doug, that's what I was gonna say when, when I was coaching at Roosevelt, we would get Northgate Park, the permit. I would get there an hour early. If the park was not in any kind of shape, I had a number to call. I could call this number and they would send a park person out to take care of it right there on the spot.
Cool. Yeah, I think that needs to be included. Yeah.
If you have a number, you can call somebody.
Yeah, so likewise at the tennis courts, Jim Flynn.
But there also, I don't know how I want to say something, but there should also be the person that's getting the permit, they should know that they do have to give the city a little time. So in there, you get the permit. I don't know if they get it the day before or a week before, everyone's a little different. But there has to be, if they show up to the park and it's not like what they expect, they should be able to contact the parks department to come and do something if they're not willing to do it. But they should know that there is a time limit, on it. So when they get the permit, if they get the permit one day ahead of time, there's no guarantee that it might be ready to go like they want it. But if they get it 2 or 3 days ahead of time, it should be.
Anything else?
Yep, I got a couple of comments on it. All damage sometimes isn't visible in the beginning in a park when you see it. I'm still being curious. We won't know the extent of some of what went on in Nob Hill until the wildflowers come out, because we had a lot of wildflowers that were blooming right on the edges of a lot of the trails. And in a lot of areas, the trails were widened out by 1 to 2 feet on each side. So we still don't even know quite what the extent of what went on in that area.
Good point. And that was discussed somewhat about, and so if Tina's going to do this again, she needs to document what it's like, and a year later document the same kind of thing. So almost on an annual kind of thing in a nature park of what was destroyed and what isn't coming up anymore. So that's going to take a year-long process to document. It isn't going to be a thing when you pull the permit in the middle of September and it's a 5-week permit, and towards the end of October, you take the photograph of any damages or whatever. You need to take a photograph a year later. And if it's Tina who is easily accessible, then yes, she will need to pay up to replace any of those kinds of things that have been ripped apart, some of the plants, those kinds of things. So I think there is a way to do that on almost an annual basis, but there's also documentation if the trail is slipping away and rocks have been moved and any kinds of damages. Those things need to be documented as the permit holder is in her time period. If anyone sees those kinds of problems, they need to be documented.
The other one would be is too that I'd love to see possibly another, I hate to say like a layer, but if a event was going to bring over 1,500, 2,000 people into a nature park, there needs to be a little bit of a almost environmental impact statement or something about how good is it to bring 2,000 or 3,000 people into a sensitive area. You know, there needs to be a little bit of thought to that.
Well,
What's your recommendation, Howie?
My recommendation in that area would be that there should be a very serious look at environmental impact of more than 1,000 or 1,500 people coming through a park over a few week period.
And how'd you come up with those numbers?
They were running 100 people per hour through Nob Hill. And the nearest we can tell is there was 3,000 to 5,000 people that went through the park. During that period of time, we've never been able to really get serious numbers from Tina. I've heard somebody say there was 3,000 people that went through there. You know, so that's, you know, and especially like on one section of our trail, you went both directions. So you take whatever number that is and double it. That's, you know, we could have had as many as 4,000 to 6,000 people going across parts of some of the trails. And that is an impact to an area when it's done all within about a 6 or 7 week period. That's a lot of impact.
Yeah, and that's one of the reasons that I asked Shauna to share with you the for the trails standards and those kinds of. I don't know if you had an opportunity to download that from Portland Parks or not, but it is an unbelievable document, and I hope Shauna has shared that with her staff so that they know what kind of trails that we're talking about and how much impact that they can take and what needs to be done if there is that kind of impact going through Nob Hill Nature Park, what we needed to do. That's why I researched that and tried to bring that to the Parks Commission. And I don't know if it has been studied or even looked at or not. I tried to get some hard copies made for each of you, and there was pushback with that. And they said, well, it's online, so the Parks Commission can do it online. And we can get a very thorough understanding of how we can work with the trails that we have and how they can be improved to facilitate more people. If not, you know, I'm not certain how anyone can make a judgment about how many people we should have going through there per hour or per day or per month or whatever, because there's some variables in weather and there's all kinds of variables. And what kind of, is it suited for children? Is it suited for any kind of handicap people, or is it suited for this or that? So there's a lot to discuss about that. Howie, I hope you understand that it's going to take some time to iron those things out. And especially if we put a limitation of people that can go through there and who's counting and what are the impacts and those kinds of issues. So it brings up a very intense point that will need intense study and just I don't know if we're ready for that right now, but it's something on the radar. Okay.
As someone who maintains the trails, you can see how most of the year round, they're worn at a certain width. So for something that's only a few weeks a year, if you make them big and huge and wider than what we would be needing now, then you're talking about how do you maintain that extra distance, because the rest of the year, things may grow back into that area. And we've also got areas, what are you gonna do? Bring in heavy equipment and jackhammer into the salt cliffs and to make a trail that's suitable for huge numbers of people and destroy the environment that a nature park is, just for something that goes on for 7 weeks of the year. You know, I mean, there's some areas that just be impossible unless heavy construction is done to make a trail that big.
Good point, Howie. And they have, and I think the trail guides and the standards speak to that very effectively. And it came out of Portland because Portland is the city of trails. I'm sure you've hiked a lot of them up in the park area. So anyway, hopefully you can read through that and to give our park staff.
We have Dana too. Dana's had her hand up for a bit and hasn't had a chance to talk yet, so you can go after Jerry. Sorry, I want to make sure everyone has a chance.
Hi, Dana.
Dana or me?
Yeah, sorry. You can go ahead, Jerry, and I can hold my question for a second.
Oh, okay. I just have two quick questions, a comment and two things. One is that's kind of an unusual thing, getting that many people to go through. I mean, I don't think that's going to happen in too many places. That's my comment on that. So one is if we expect that many people to go through, there should be some assistance, some people to monitor the people that are going through. And the other thing too is I think if there are sensitive areas, those sensitive areas then, should be, marked ahead of time with maybe engineering tape ahead of time. So, have monitors if there's going to be such a gigantic event over a long period of time. And then they're also, have monitors and it should be marked off. Yeah, I think it should be, yeah. But I think that, yeah. I think if there had been monitors there, and if there had been monitors there keeping the people on the trail and areas where you think it was sensitive, then that should have been, marked off so people wouldn't go in that, and with signs that says, sensitive areas. I think that we could maybe mitigate a lot of the damage that was, that was done. We did that.
I think that, Jerry, I think that's a great point. And when Tina comes forward to the Parks Commission next year, if she has the same thing going on again, then I think it's a good time for the Parks Commission to weigh in on these kinds of issues. So keep the discussion alive. Dana, what do you got?
Sorry, I just wanted to, first of all, thank you for having a healthy and appropriate discussion about this topic. And I'm really thankful for this plan of action moving forward. I think it's a great start and has really good potential.
Thanks, Carmen.
Yeah, thank you all for that. And a couple of questions that I had were considering the scenarios. I understand the comments earlier about the smaller, shorter term rentals versus the larger, longer term rentals and the documentations as such. And, I encourage clear clear verbiage in the permitting process that does say, hey, for these smaller events, this documentation is all that's mandatory, and it's more of a good faith. We're talking about smaller effects anyway. But for the bigger events, including the ones utilizing the nature park, I think it's really, really important to have a multi-person walkthrough, not only at the beginning to document the stage and what the environment looks like to begin with, but also periodically through that event time, so that hopefully they can make adjustments as necessary, during the month, instead of waiting for all 7 weeks to pass and have a dramatic change to the environment that needs a lot of work. I think it would be healthy to do some periodic reassessments and fix things as needed. And that would be, I think, better for the park overall. So you can see where maybe better barriers need to be put in place, or some support for the trails to prevent further breakdown. And then I also wanted to ask if you guys were going to possibly assess the fee that is associated with the rentals for extremely large persons. Like they were saying, 3,000 people in a park over a period of time is quite significant. And also considering the sensitive natures of those parks compared to, say, the downtown waterfront park would be a little bit less sensitive to damage from the people being present.
Good comments, Dana.
Good. Thank you.
And I don't know, I really don't know if by responding, I don't know.
No, it's
If
just I'm planting seeds.
It's just
for further
really good.
discussion.
Yeah, that's great. Anything else for Councilman Morton?
The only other thing that I would add is that all of this feels very reactionary instead of kind of trying to get ahead of damage. So when there are large events like that too, I think maybe in a pre-walkthrough, it may also be important to think about what mitigation could be done in advance of that event to limit the damage, like with the Nob Hill issue that we had last year. If there had been a walkthrough a month in advance where we could say this much traffic coming through, we need to do X, Y, and Z to be able to support that. So not just have it be after the fact and during, like Dana mentioned.
And that's really a good point, because that's how our parks can improve.
Yeah.
Case in point is the Veterans Plaza. And our Veterans Days just somehow just seem to be on those days where it's raining cats and dogs, and that's why we went to a plaza, so it wouldn't be so muddy for people to gather, and people were gathering out in the parking lot prior to that plaza. And now the plaza has taken has formatted a much better environment for people to participate and work through, and they're undercover as well, which brings up something in that plaza that I've noticed, is that getting from the parking lot to the seating area, to the new seating area, as you're looking at the plaza from the parking lot, it would be the one off to the left. To get there, you have to go in front of the ceremony. If you come in just a bit late or whatever, you have to go in front of the ceremony or walk in the mud and grass somehow to get there. They're with the gazebo, which is on the right side. If you're looking from the parking lot, there's a sidewalk that goes from the parking lot right to the gazebo. It circumvents the plaza. And so I just find that that's one thing that really didn't get finished that we somewhat talked about. And this would be up to the veterans and people who will fund for that sidewalk. It won't be up to the city. The city will help with some in-kind labor in doing that, I'm sure. But that's my take. When we start doing these things, it improves our parks. It does everything to improve it with better verbiage in the language in the permit process, possibly documenting. Brandon brings up that point of, hey, this isn't fair. I paid $30 for the garbage all over everywhere. Well, somehow, some way, this needs to get back to the staff. And if it doesn't get the cap, if it falls on deaf ears in the staff, which I don't think it will, I think those are days in the past. And then the council will have to make some recommendations to the staff. And that isn't a very pleasant situation. So anyway, I applaud you folks for being part of this and bringing it about so that the council is aware of it. Thank you.
Thank you, Doug.
I do have one more thing though.
Okay, go for it.
Okay, so I want to encourage everyone who has any kinds of irons in the fire with special projects that they're looking at and doing and accomplishing to come to the budget committee. And the budget committee, I don't have the dates on it, but the budget committees meet at like 6:30 or 7 o'clock, usually on a Wednesday or Thursday. And it seems like it's the end of February here sometime is the first budget process committee. And those are important if you want your voice to be heard about any special projects. It gives this council person who sits on that budget committee some impetus and some traction to go forward. And without that, it's pretty hard because it all becomes Doug Morton's agenda then. So I hope I'm understood. So I'd love to see people come forward to the budget committee and report how important parks are and how important this project is going to be. Okay?
Can you share what that schedule is? Email us or something, Doug, when the meetings are.
Yeah, and it's on the web with meetings. There should be budget meetings.
I
On our
don't see it listed on the meetings list right now, but.
Sherry, do you know anything about that?
I know all the different committees send out the emails to all the commissions for.
Yeah, we'll get it sent out. We'll get it. I'll ask Matt to send it out to this committee. Okay.
Okay. Awesome.
That'd probably be better.
That works.
Punch in something and it goes somewhere else. Anyway.
Okay. Thank you, Doug.
Hey, thank you. I appreciate it. It's an honor to take these kinds of recommendations to the council. Thank you.
Carmen.
Gary, yeah.
I'm gonna cover this under old business, but since Doug brought it up here, Doug has talked to me about this. So when he said special projects, I think he was kind of pointing towards me, maybe Doug.
Urban Trail.
So I was hoping someone would go with me, Carmen.
Urban Trail.
For the urban trails. So
yeah, when I know what it is, I'm happy to go.
And I'm going to be gone a big part of February, so we might have to wait till the March meeting.
Okay.
I'd like to be there. So yeah, just to come and talk about the trail, and there's like three things I'd like to bring up to that. And like I said, so Carmen, will you come with me when the time comes?
Yep. Yeah, just coordinate with me. I'm happy to go.
And Howie can too. So I think we only have like 5 minutes, right, Doug, at the beginning of those meetings?
Hey, think about it. 5 minutes each, right?
Yeah, Gary.
So anyway,
we can be concise with our 5 minutes. It will mean more rather than rambling for 15 minutes, 5 for each of us. We can do it. All right, anything else? No? Okay, we're gonna go on to new business then. We need to re-elect chair and vice chair. Sherry sent the email earlier that John has decided to resign. from the commission, so he will not be chair. And just want to say, John, we appreciate, if you're listening, all of your efforts and time while on the commission. But we need to re-elect chair and vice chair. So that's why I'm leading the meeting today. I don't know if we want to just bump Lynn into the chair position and vote on that. And then if anyone wants to volunteer for vice chair, or if anyone wants to take a different approach, feel free to speak up.
I think one of the new people should take vice chair.
I'm all for that.
You know, we've all had our turns rotating it, and let's get them into the rotation also.
Yeah.
So can we do the chair first? So I
Yeah.
make a motion that
Oh, is she gonna say something, Lynn Pettit? Did I just?
Hi, Lynn.
because Lynn did tell Sherry that, Lynn, you said you wanted to do it, right?
Yes, I will. And my term expires at the end of this year, so I should take my turn.
So I make a motion that Lynn Pettit be the new chairman of the
Second.
Parks and Trails Commission.
I'll second it.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. And anyone opposed? All righty, awesome.
Yeah,
And
I'm gonna
now vice
follow-
chair.
Okay, I'm gonna follow up on what Jacob said. You know, so we basically have Paul, Brandon, and Dana who've not been a vice chair yet. So,
I have.
and I think Paul, have you been?
I have, yeah, it's been a while, but yes, I have had both.
So my question would be, would Paul, Brandon, or Dana, would they want to be vice chair? And my recommendation is, I think Paul has been here the longest.
I agree.
So Paul, are you interested in being vice chair? Which means you'll be.
No, I would be fine with one of the other two.
What was that, Paul?
I said I would be fine with one of the other two wanted to be vice chair.
Okay, so then I think Brandon would be the next option. Brandon, are
Glad
you?
to help out unless Dana really wants it.
And then I'm gonna make a motion then that we nominate Brandon for vice chair.
I'll second it.
Perfect. All those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
And anyone opposed? Awesome.
But Dana, you're up next.
You're up next.
Perfect. So Lynn, you get to run next month's meeting.
All righty, I'll be
Pass
there.
it on. Perfect. Awesome.
And thank
Let's,
you.
yeah, no problem. We don't have anything under old business, so I'm gonna hop over to discussion items, and the first item is field rentals and trade time for work. Don't know who put that on.
So I put that on.
Oh, perfect.
So I've had some different user groups we've had over the years, different user groups that have done different things to the fields. And they, at one time, and I'll just be transparent, so it's St. Helens Girls Softball. They have, for the most part, maintained, well, not for the most part, they have maintained the Boise fields and then Campbell Park as well. They used to not get charged for field rentals at the Boise fields with the agreement that they had with Boise Cascade of using the fields for free. And then a few years ago, it started to be where they do get a charge now, and I believe it's $5 for 4 hours, like $5 total. So still a pretty good rate there. But the president of the softball league does put a lot of time into maintaining them. And last year, there was some talk about possibly alleviating some of the field rental fees by trading for work done. And we've never had an agreement for that. I have some concerns about having agreements like that, just for what do we determine is the right kind of field care? What are we trading for? The liability of volunteers doing things. and some other things with that. However, with this year going forward, crediting some field time usage for the work that was done last year, I feel like would be appropriate, but then needing to really dig a little deeper on how we want to proceed going forward with user groups, and if we are going to trade field time for work being done and what that work looks like, because maybe somebody goes and does work that the parks didn't want them to do or something, and just really having a clear picture. So a few things that I've seen from other municipalities, one of them is let's see, where did it go? So basically it was the board had to come to, whether it's us here or to park staff, to submit a request of the field work that they would like to do. And then that's approved, and it's approved within a certain timeline of doing that work, and then traded for a field usage fee. And then another thing is I really don't think, so for instance, if somebody puts in, say, 80 hours on the field, what does that look like? What was actually done? Does those things really take 80 hours? That sort of thing. And then how we're going to transfer that into a fee amount, because we necessarily couldn't, pay somebody $25 an hour to do a fee if we only charge $5 for 4 hours. So if it's, how we look into that. So I wanted to come to the Parks and Recreation Commission to talk about what that would look like, if that's something you think that we should even entertain going forward. And if not, or any kind of questions or concerns you all have with that. I know we have several folks who've been in youth sports and adult sports and stuff, so you might have some opinions on what that looks like too.
So I'm gonna tell you as a coach,
Yeah.
a baseball coach, we as coaches put in hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of man hours on those fields to get them playable, to make them look nice, because you don't want a team to show up on a field that looks bad. So I have put many man hours in.
I know.
You put like turfus on the fields and stuff. That costs money too. Keep the field playable, and stuff like that. You mow the lawn, you weed. I definitely think they should get a discount or a break in their permits if they are willing to put in the time and effort to make the fields look safer and nicer. But I think you need to have a parks representative that knows what the field should look like. So you don't have just some guy, oh yeah, I mowed the lawn, it looks like, this. But as for like, I can tell you right now, there's all these coaches in the league, they put hundreds of hours in and they don't even say a word.
Yeah. Yeah, and I understand, and we so appreciate our volunteers that do those things. And I know when I've been a part of the youth organizations, we would do things like that. I guess my question too is, we charge such a low rate for the fields already for our in-district leagues. I mean, $5 for 4 hours, or basically $1 an hour we're charging. How much more do we break on that if we're having to do like the fertilizer and the weed and seed and that sort of thing? Like what does that look like? So I guess that would be my.
So when softball gets the permits for the field, they get them by 4 hour increments. They don't say we want it from this time to this time.
No, so that used to be where you could get a exclusive use permit and exclusively use it for a certain amount of time, like months, and that was done away way before I was Parks and Rec manager, because what was being done is reserving fields for times people weren't even playing, and so it wasn't very equitable for folks who just wanted the fields for a couple hours here or there without having to work. So now they do say, I want Monday through Friday, 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. And that means the other times other user groups could use them as well. And it actually hasn't been going bad with that. The only hiccup we ran into is during COVID, when everybody shut down their fields, and then some folks that lived in other places caught wind that we had fields over here, so they were starting to show up. So there was a little bit of but it hasn't been bad since then. But no, we don't do exclusive use permit, Sherry. That's been a couple of years now, right?
Yeah, that all went, when they did the automated system, that all went over to that.
Yeah, so it's been probably since like 2018 that we haven't done this.
Like I said though, all the man hours though they do put in,
Yeah.
and turfus and stuff like that, that stuff does add up.
Yeah.
So
Sometimes people do it just for the love of the park.
Yeah, no, and that's what I've done. I've done, I've never asked for a cent.
Yeah.
You know, we redid the JV field at the high school
Uh-huh.
on our own.
Yeah.
And it looked
Yeah.
immaculate.
Yeah.
So it's just one of those things where, I don't know, I agree with softball and them that do put a lot of work in, that they should get a kickback. At the same time, though, I'm one of the guys that does it and don't say a word.
Yeah.
I thought we had talked about this. I feel like
We did.
last
We had
year,
a
or the year
big-
before, and I thought we agreed, and I thought it was written into some of the rules somewhere or a contract somewhere that we would reimburse or credit up to a certain percentage of the fees. Like I thought that was all settled.
I just remember we did have a big discussion about it. It was long
Yeah.
and it got like heated and.
Yeah, like I almost
And
wonder if we
maybe
should
so, I
track
can-
down those meetings.
Yeah,
and
I can
find
definitely look and see if I was told that hasn't been made a thing, so that's why I brought it up today, but I'm totally fine, looking into, and I didn't ask you, Sherry, so I apologize
Yeah,
for
it
that.
was brought up before, and I think it went to council for approval, whether they did or not, I can't remember.
Okay,
Yeah, that's
yeah,
what
so
I
I
thought
can
too.
I can do more research on that, and I think that this is part of with the whole special use permit updates and with this sort of stuff, there's just an update that needs to happen with the here and nows of how things are. And just so that we're all on the same page, and I definitely think that for field usage, it's important for folks if they want to do something more or anything to the field, they should come to the park staff first to talk about what that's gonna look like, so we don't show up and there's a new irrigation thing there or something along those lines. And so just having that better like laid out in there. And before they didn't really have somebody who was just focusing on the administration part just for parks. And now with Aaron helping assist that role, I think there'll be a lot more access that we can do and online type stuff. So thank you for that feedback. I didn't know that this had already been talked about, so I'll go back and look. And if
It was a big discussion.
okay,
We had
and if
a
I
whole
need
field
any more,
softball here.
okay. And if I need any more information from that, then I'll reach out to you all. Does that sound okay?
Sounds good. And I'll look at my notes too and try to find when that was talked about and point you in the right direction, Shauna.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Yep. Awesome. Thank you. All right, let me get back to the agenda. What did we have next? Next, we have talk about how to post an area that is fragile and trying to be restored.
I guess that was me bringing that one up. Or do you have something to say?
I don't know who put that on.
I put
the
that on
agenda.
there.
Okay.
Oh, okay, then that's you.
Okay, mainly I just keep talking about that, this is something that we're slowly gonna need to be doing. The, one of the bluffs, on the waterfront in Nob Hill, we've got a camas bluff that a lot of people are going out into and laying down in the middle of the camas field and keep turning that, well, there's a trail that's starting to become mud. I've also been trying to do some restoration work out there of getting rid of some of these, I'm gonna call them clump forming grasses. I'm not sure if that's the right term, but they're actually moving out into the camas meadows. I've actually mowed a bunch of those in that area. And so, it kind of looks like something's going on. So more people probably want to start walking out there. But in our yards right now, you can notice that the camas is up a 1/4 of an inch, which means that this whole area of the camas is just getting ready to start growing. And I keep talking about eventually, how do we post something if it's truly a nature park that, the camas is a vanishing thing, camas meadows and stuff, and that we really need to work towards trying to protect them, That's also why we're working hard. I'll be talking to Shauna here shortly about that we're trying to put a bench in, which is at the opposite end in a meadow that overlooks roughly the same thing, except you don't look right into the sewage treatment plant, but we're gonna end up with a bench in that area. So I'm hoping that eventually we can try to control people a little bit in this one camas meadow to try to preserve the camas and get it to come back as much as it was. When we first started the park, it was, the whole thing was camas, and now more and more people walk out there and more invasives are going out there. And we were actually watching Saturday night a talk, I'm gonna forget the exact area, but restoration experts, and they were talking about, when you have cameras and other things, how I doubt we'd ever get that far, but fire was one of the things that was used to control invasives getting into like camas meadows and that type of thing. And that next best is mowing. And so I'm starting to try to see if I can find time to go after these big clumps to try to knock them back to get the native stuff to come back more than the non-native stuff. So I don't know where we look up for wordage of how to bring that up, that it's a sensitive area and, but I just keep putting it out there because eventually we will, if we love our park there, we're gonna have to do something to control a few real sensitive areas of people getting in there and, doing it. I've had people lay down in the middle of the canvas, throw a blanket out right across it. And so that's the only reason I'm bringing it up. So.
Lynn has her hand up, so she might have some thoughts.
Yeah, Howard, at Dalton, we've ordered some signs and a couple of them say, I think it was do not disturb restoration and process, because we have that north end where we planted the native species. And I think that would be a good idea to start with. If then you can get more, if citizens aren't abiding by staying on the trail and you have problems, then you might add some extra wording such as staying on the trail. Sometimes that will help, but signs will help, I think.
Yeah, because people are wearing the trail out there, even though it's not gravel. We have something on our kiosk saying, please stay on the gravel trails. And now they're going, well, that's a trail. And it's like, no, it's a mud path. That was never.
Howard, maybe you should talk to Emily Martin about, how to bring back camas or how to take care of what you have now.
Yeah, I've been talking to her some.
And she probably knows what to do.
There's a lot of versions of it. I think she does.
She could find out how your procedures.
Yeah.
Howard, Councilor Morton here. There is those camas are bulbs. Is that correct?
Yes, they are.
And so can't some of those bulbs be transplanted and coaxed into certain areas? Because I know exactly the area that you're talking about. And I've envisioned in that area a narrow trail, not a wide trail, a narrow trail out to a bit of a viewpoint. That would mean that some of the camas would have to come up, be sacrificed for a trail to go out and, maybe a circular kind of turnaround or whatever and come back just for a viewpoint, possibly a bench, but in not totally sacrificed, because they could be transplanted and spur new development somewhere else. So that I envision that kind of work being done, even though it's a nature park. I think it needs some coaxing in that sense. And I think you're bringing up a really, really good point about how do we go about regulating people into out of sensitive areas and onto trails.
The problem with that area out there is a lot of it is you've got a lot of bedrock that's real close to the surface, and camas really likes growing ideally where there's only a couple of inches of soil on top of the rock. And so when you get people out there that walk on the rock, it destroys the little area. Camas will grow anywhere, but then what you get into is moles and other ground creatures will come up underneath it if it's in deeper grounds. So sometimes some of those shallow areas are really good. If we really wanted to do something like that, I'd almost say that the ideal thing would be is to build a little bit of a boardwalk. And that would define more of where people would want to stay on the boardwalk and not be going off the sides a little bit, because people are like, oh, I'm only going 6 inches, but 6 inches becomes a foot becomes 2 feet, and it always just slowly gets bigger.
One of the things that I was really upset about was when the Parks Department along Highway 30 put in the trees probably 20, 30 years ago. They mowed down all that camas meadow that was right by Highway 30, and now there's just bark dust there. But I've tried to I've taken camas, dug, and replanted them at my place. And I think like how I said, I'm no expert. We need to talk to an expert on this because I've gone where they've dug up camas before. I've gone and collected them, planted them in my yard where I thought, there's rock, and they would grow for a year or two sporadically, and then they all died out. But if you're going to transplant them, I would think that if there was areas where they used to grow, and you need an expert on this, but if they used to live in the area, then maybe you could put a boardwalk, take those where the boardwalk is, and transplant them with some expert help. But I know that they're pretty habitat specific.
The other thing is too, I'd like to ask the city staff once again, anytime you guys happen to go into an area and do digging, and if you ever see camas bolts, let us know, because I know people that would love to come out, Emily from the Watershed Council, we would love to come out and collect them if they're just gonna lay on the surface and rot.
It was a tragedy when the city scraped all that along Highway 30, because that was beautiful in the springtime. Now it's just bark dust.
Our canvas is vanishing. We're losing a lot of our canvas meadows. Okay.
Howard, this is Lynn.
Yeah.
This is Lynn, and you might try calling Lona Pierce. She's very knowledgeable about that. And we also have camas growing at the beginning of the Rutherford Parkway, between the rail line and the parkway. And so it's being cut right now by the city. I'd like to talk to them later about that.
Isn't there a big camas field off the
There's that whole Liberty Hill thing with
whole Liberty
flowers out
You
there.
go up there in the spring when it's blooming, it is absolutely gorgeous up there.
So
Does anyone else have any feedback, or do we want to make any motions? It sounds like there's a little more research that needs to happen, but.
We need to get experts, would be my comment.
Okay. I'll see if I can line some up.
Because eventually maybe we can make a motion to have some signs made with the specific verbiage. It would be nice to have a bunch of extras too. So as we see the need for them, they can be put out instead of having to order them one off every time. But
I guess we don't need experts for signs, but for replanting.
well, it would be good to
And
get
I
like a
think that's-
standard language on signs so that we can have consistency in the parks.
Carmen, that's really a good suggestion, and we bring that forward to our public works people to help us out with those signs. And if you come up with some very simple verbiage, and they very small and non-intrusive in a sense, that some things like and Jerry's seen this on golf courses as well, in terms of areas that are wetlands and they have wetland plants, just small little signs that say a sensitive area, please stay on paths, or stay on paths. You can take the word please and do what you want. But anyway, it's just some simple things like that. If we had 50 of those things, they could be placed in and last for some time, placed in areas that really make sense, I think.
Was Lynn paying for her signs, or were they going through the city? If you're still there, Lynn.
Yes, we got a donation of $500 so that we could get the signs we needed for Dalton.
Okay.
I have a meeting on Wednesday to look at everything in super detail about the budget thing, and I can see if there's any funds that we could dedicate to signs. Right now, I'm not sure.
Okay.
And just see what we have. But Lynn's signs, they were a little bigger, but they average about $40 a sign, just to the aluminum type of sign. So just an idea for what that looks like. But that definitely could be things as we look towards the budget for 22-23. Looking at a line item to put some for Nob Hill, but I'm not sure if we have the funding right now to get that many signs. I'll have to look to see what we have going on.
Yeah, I just like to keep bringing it back, because I don't know, say, do we wait till it's real problem and it's deforested, or do we try to save it before we have to do major restoration? So that's why I keep bringing it back. So thank you.
It'd be great if we could have some of the tourism money to pay for some of those. Just from an impact from last year. But we've talked that to death, so I won't go beyond that. All right. Anything else under discussion items that anyone wants to bring up today?
Real quickly, Carmen, I would, if you were here, I would do this offline, but
You can always call me.
yeah, I know. I started to call you today, but I fell asleep. I took a nap. So the next time there's a budget committee meeting, if it's like, I want to be gone in February. So if it's if I'm here in February, I'll find out when it is and I'll contact you and Howard and let you know when it is. If I'm not going to be here in February, we'll hold off. Maybe we'll hold off then till the March meeting or when the next, I don't know if they have them every 2 weeks. So I will find out when the budget committee is meeting, and I'll let you and Howie know when that is.
Sounds good.
I do have a couple more quickie things, just discussion items or updates. I've been moving gravel into the park. I personally moved almost 2 yards to the top of the stairs, over almost 50 to 75 feet to redo the trail in that area. We've had volunteers earlier this year do another section, so we're up to probably almost 200 feet and over 3 yards of gravel that we've moved into the park for trail maintenance. Also coming up on April 2nd, we have our twice yearly work parties coming up for Nob Hill, where Emily will be doing a section between 9 and noon along the 5th Street right away, and me and Caroline will be doing our work session between 1 and 4 on that on April the 2nd. And then actually April the 3rd, I do not know the exact time of it, but we're going to have the Native Plant Society of Oregon come out for a tour of the park on April the 3rd, and I can try to find out more what time. We think it may be something like 1 to 3, but I'm not guaranteeing that time frame yet. So I think that's all for now.
Thanks, Howard. Does anyone else have anything they want to bring up?
Oh, I forgot one more thing.
Go for it.
We've been in touch with, Caroline found out that there's a group of students from Portland Community College that actually make maps for nature areas and stuff. And so we've been talking to Shauna a little bit, and gosh, how can I forget her name? Jenny Dimshow, about it, and we'll be eventually in the next few months probably have a rough draft of a really nice map of Nob Hill to present to people and see if people like the ideas that this intern in class come up with for a map of the area.
Cool. That's neat.
Right.
All right. Anything else?
I got just one thing.
Yeah.
With John now retiring from the Park Commission, we have an opening, correct?
Yep, we do.
We had 2 applicants last month. We chose one. Do we want to see if the other one wants to be on also?
Sherry, do we need to have Kathy post and have it open for a period before we do that? Do you know?
Probably. I asked her today if she would advertise again.
Okay.
If we can consider that person again.
So I don't think we can just automatically choose.
Okay.
That's a good point, though.
Good point.
All right. Anything else? Dana, go ahead.
Yes, I just had a quick question, referring back to the signs at the Nob Hill Nature Park. Is that something that you guys then will be working on shortly to look at pricing and availability of what we might be able to put in there? Because I do periodically donate to projects and whatnot here in town, and I would be willing to put in a couple $100 towards that project. So.
Awesome. I defer to Howard and crew on that, but I think that's great. Thank you, Dana.
Okay. I'll have to talk to Sean a little more about that. We'll come up with something, I guess.
I think that's it, Carmen.
Okay. All right. Thank you
Your
all.
last
Meeting
meeting.
adjourned, my last one.
Thank you for being
Lynn,
present.
you're up.
All right.